moment of clarity.
What's up, everybody? What's happening, my people? It's your man, Stefan G, and you are tuned in to another eclectic episode of Moment of Clarity right here on the Promise Life Network. Moment of Clarity, and it is episode number 100. Mike, can you believe we made it to 100 episodes?
No.
I can't believe we made it to 100 episodes. Now, if you are on the website, thestefang.com, you might be saying, what do you mean 100 episodes? I don't see 100 episodes. Okay, so technically we're probably at like 400 or 500 episodes, considering I've been doing this show since 2005 on all different radio stations, all different platforms. But we officially started keeping count about 3 years ago, and then I took that year off. So we're officially at episode number 100. But if you're on the website, you're going to see that it starts at number 35. And that's because our servers got wiped out a couple years back and we lost the first 35 episodes.
Oh, really?
And so we started 35 and we're at 100. So our count is official, even though it looks like we're not really there. I'm just, whatever. It's episode number 100. And I got somebody in the house today to celebrate episode number 100. Ladies and gentlemen, Candid Kim is in the house.
What's up? What's up?
Candy Kim, what's happening, baby?
I'm here.
How you been?
I've been great, man.
Yeah?
Yes, definitely.
Listen, I done told the people that you have awesomeness and amazingness and magnificence on the horizon.
Yes.
Well, actually, it's not on the horizon. It's there.
Yes.
It's existing.
I mean,
and
it's
it's
just
working
being
out right now.
magnified and exploding.
There you go.
So,
see? That's how it gets down. Let them know. You about to
Yes.
be real Pusha T on these jokers.
I'm telling you.
This was such a nice surprise. I did not know Kim was coming
He
in.
didn't tell you.
No.
He didn't tell you. I'm here.
You know,
I'm here in the flesh.
I like to light it up.
Definitely.
And we still got Joy and Tina in the house. They're old news now, though. So
Hey.
yeah,
Old news.
say hello.
We found out the depths of their soul last
Yeah, we
week.
did.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
I'm just sitting here quiet. Mm-mm.
Joy, you is not gonna be quiet.
She said that as soon as she walked in and then started talking right
and ain't
after
stopped since she got here. Anyway, so today we have an interesting topic. We're talking about the role of being nice
Yes.
as a Christian, and crossing the line and what that line is and why that line exists and all that kind of stuff. And we were originally supposed to dig into Tina's life today, but I guess the Holy Spirit spared her for the moment.
I mean, talking about nice, we still could.
might get there.
We
might
could.
get there
It's
because
a
there might be an
possibility.
evil streak in her that she has yet to reveal.
I don't know. I can't say all that now.
But we're talking about being nice, and the question came up because I've run into some sensitive souls over my time. I call them sensitive.
Okay.
People might call them regular.
Okay.
But I tend to be a relatively direct person in my
Hello.
speaking sometimes.
I'm just saying.
I tend to say things without always regarding how you might interpret or feel it.
You think?
Okay.
Every once in a while. And so the question then came
Let
up
him
like,
use you.
I know you on my team.
I
know you on my
just
team.
so you know.
But the question then came up, so what is the line? Like, there's that part of Christianity or there's that part of life where we say, I'm just going to give it to you straight, no chaser. I'm going to let you know how this is. I'm not going to hold back because that is, not my fault if you're so overly sensitive that you can't accept the truth, right? But then there's the other, Kim, there's the other school of thought that says, but you got to meet people where they are and you have to speak their language and, nobody cares what you say until they know how much you care. How does that go? Nobody cares what you know.
I never took time to learn it.
Nobody cares what
Foreign
you know.
language to Kim there.
Yeah. It goes, nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care.
True statement.
And so, the question came
when
up.
I'm dating.
The question came up on where's the line? So where's the line, Tina? Where is the line? How direct can I be? Am I required to have care for your feelings? Am I required to speak in a way that cares for your interpretation of my statement?
All right. So about 2 weeks ago, I would tell you that it would just depend on the level of how you know this person and how you deal with them. But recently, someone I will not name, I had to go out and talk to them concerning.
Tell me the name. I'll say it.
I had to go out and talk to them concerning, their situation.
They have a
And
situation?
They had a situation. They wanted my
Okay.
opinion.
If you said the situation, they would probably know you were talking about them. Okay.
Yep.
I
Okay.
don't know you, but
So instead of me, for months, I've tried to be like, it's okay. I love on them and then give them the truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing will still happen. I love on them again and then give them the truth. Same thing will happen. And then one day I was just like, look, this. And they took it completely the wrong way, was super offended. And in my mind, I was like, I should have just started with it.
So you was like, if you just gonna be a hoe, then you're gonna have to expect hoish responses. And they was like, but I'm not a hoe, and I don't know why you calling me a hoe. And you was like, but like that's 5 dudes in a week, so that's kind of hoe like. And you was like, and they was like, hoe is relative. Like I can do what I want with my body, and they ran off.
Hoe is relative.
I was
Interesting.
sitting here like, oh my.
For the record, that's not the situation, but yes, essentially.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, I do believe they can just tell people what it is, and if they know your heart, they know that it's not coming from a bad place.
Oh, but so
Well, what
many
if they
people don't
your
know my heart.
Yeah, they
though.
don't. What if I don't know you? I've never interacted with you. I don't know who you are, and you come at me, and I feel like you just punched me in the doggone face.
What?
Good
Maybe
What?
they needed to be punched.
That's what I was gonna say. What if they needed to be punched in the face?
that's why you need to know the fruit of the spirit. That way you can gauge.
See, I knew there was a reason I brought her in.
Go
She's
ahead,
talking
girl.
Jesus already. We just getting started.
I'm IJS. You know,
But who's supposed to know the fruit of the spirit? The person that's being spoken to, or the person that's doing the speaking?
I would say both. I would definitely say both.
Well,
Because
one of
if
the
I'm-
fruits
So what happened?
of
I'm
the
a sinner
Spirit
and
is-
ain't saved, but you gonna come at me and tell me
I was
I'm
gonna
dying
say,
and on my way to
but
hell.
isn't one of the fruits of the
because-
spirit meekness?
and
self-control.
Yeah, so
Actually, okay, I'll have to look that up real quick.
Come on, Pastor. Let us know what the word says. In the meantime, I struggle with this on a regular basis because I tend to prefer directness. I call it directness. Sometimes I'm being mean and petty, but I tend to prefer that realm of conversation and communication. But over the years, I've found myself, drawing back because I understand that some people just won't receive what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? If you bring it to them in that manner. But then I also step back and say, am I to be more concerned with their reception of what I'm saying, or is it my job just to say it? But then I also say, well, what's the point in saying something if it's not being received?
Exactly.
So I kind of go back and forth, and I'm double-minded, and I'm spewed out of the mouth, and that's the end of the day.
So let me know when you guys want me to read the fruits of the Spirit.
Go ahead.
Please.
All right. The fruits of the Spirit, this is according to Galatians 5:22. For those, pull out your Bibles.
Come
as they
on,
say
amen,
in
amen.
Bible study.
Are we gonna stand?
It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. That's actually one of the fruits of the Spirit is kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness,
I didn't know there's that many. How many are there?
self-control. So love, joy, peace, patience, kindness,
No.
goodness,
No.
faithfulness, gentleness, self-control.
You back to being unsaved, Kim?
No, I'm just. I'm just.
Oh, but should I read the evil deeds of the flesh right before that?
Oh, goodness.
Come on.
Why not?
Let's go for it.
So now the deeds of the flesh are evident, which are immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, outbursts of anger, disputes, dissensions, factions, envying, drunkenness,
Ooh, faction.
carousing, and things like these.
Ooh.
I think we need to
Don't
have
mean
this
nothing
list
to
like
me.
in front of us so we can go. Yeah.
That's
What'd
a
you say,
lot.
Kim?
I said it means nothing to me.
But that's a lot there. Like
Yes.
we all are. We have factions, and we are seeing regular outbursts of anger in our society right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
God's giving us over to our flesh.
yeah,
Talks about that in Romans.
there's not as much gentleness, even though maybe there should be.
But see,
Give
I
it to her.
struggle with the whole gentleness thing because for someone like you just told me that you prefer directness.
That's true.
And so your level of I guess, acceptance for what gentleness would be looks different than what it would be if I'm talking to a 3-year-old.
That's very true.
You know what I mean? So I think it goes back to what we talked about prior to going on air, which is what Joyce said in terms of observing what it is we're dealing with. So I think you have to take the put things into context, know who you're dealing with, know who your audience is, and then proceed to engage in from that space.
I see that book learning that's coming out.
I see that.
Communication 101.
But it's very interesting that you say that, because you're right. Because if you're speaking to me and you start beating around the bush, and I can tell that you're beating around the bush in an effort to try to save my feelings or whatever, I'm going to get ticked off. Yeah, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, why don't you just say it? Like, people, like, for instance, people will say things like, how should I say this? And my answer is always with words.
Just say it.
You say it with words. That's how I need you to say it.
Use your words.
With words.
Words with friends.
Good point.
Words with friends.
And so I think there is an element to knowing your audience and understanding, but that kind of goes into the whole understanding how they receive information.
Yeah, right.
So that you can present it to them, I hate to say on their level, but
in a
I'm
manner
just going to say
of which,
it that way.
in a manner of which they will understand and receive, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're giving them a word that hopefully will guide them towards soul salvation.
What were you going to say, Kim? You were going to say something.
I was going to say, and when we don't know them, just adding on to what Joy was saying, and when we don't know them, then we just lace it in love.
Right. So when...
now I got to look up what love is.
We've been there. That was last week.
Yeah.
So what...
She said that was the last.
What situations have you been in where you weren't paying attention to the audience and you said something, or I'll ask a better question. When was the last time you were offended, Tina, because of what somebody said?
Ooh.
Oh, it came right up in her head. Yep.
Come on now.
It's swimming around in there too.
And the offense might still be there.
You can see it in her face like,
all right, we'll wait.
Yeah.
We got time. We got all the time in the world.
So I had the scripture that one. I'm joking. It was actually last week. Someone said something to me, and I didn't agree. We were debating on how we met, and they came off like, "Oh, you met me and was like, dang, he fine." I was like, "That's not how it happened."
Right.
I don't even recall that.
Alternative facts.
Yeah. So I was like, but he kept going, and then I was just kind of like, okay. And I really feel like now you're being serious. And that's not what happened whatsoever. So I got offended. I was just like, no. Well, he went on to kind of go into the story. But all in all, he kind of made it look like I was kind of... You
was digging him.
Yeah, and I was pursuing, and I was going on my way. And I was just like, I wouldn't do that for family. I knew I'm not going to do that for you. But yes, I was hot actually about it.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset.
So what was there anything or any way he could have rephrased that would have made you rethink and say, well, did I come across that way? Maybe I was seeming a little thirsty in that time frame. Because I know you. I know you went after him. I know that's what he did. I know that's what happened because I know the kind of person you are. So.
Well. You said I did it? Wait a minute.
Y'all should have seen that. Y'all wish you could see her face. Her face was like, what?
No, I mean, there's really nothing. I think the only thing I got upset is he was bought into this idea, and he was trying to buy me into it too. That
is our problem. And I'm glad you used that example because that's Christianity, isn't it?
What?
Isn't that Christianity?
Yes.
We are bought into an idea, and we are trying to get you to buy into it too.
Want everybody, every continent,
everybody bought in.
Buy into this.
Buy into it because this is it. This you don't understand. Because I explain Christianity to some people. I speak to a lot of people who are atheists, agnostic, blah blah blah. And one of the ways I explain Christianity to them is I just tasted a really good ice cream, and you haven't tasted this ice cream yet. And I'm just trying to get you to taste the ice cream. I'm so obsessed with how great this ice cream is, and I just really want you to partake in how amazing the ice cream is. And I don't necessarily know that you don't really dig ice cream like that. Like you got lactose intolerance, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to get you to eat some of this ice cream because it's so good, you know? And that's, I think, how we come across in Christianity sometimes, like him. Like, no, you don't understand. You was cutting for me and I saw it, and that's the way it is. And that person, you can still feel it in your soul.
She does.
I don't think
Never have I ever.
I don't think atheists really see it that way, though. I think they actually see it as, we're like, look, you better believe this, you're going to hell. And they're like, well, that's mean.
Well, that's what
You're
we're
saying
bought into,
people
though.
well, I know.
Yeah.
But that's how they interpret it as, well, what do you know kind of thing.
I think a lot of people that come into Christianity are that move away from it because they feel like they're forced to live this lifestyle or be something that they're not. And a lot of Christians push that on them. Like, if I'm struggling with something, I've met Christians that are like, you need to just to stop doing this because that's not of God.
Right.
And just keep it moving.
Yeah.
So they want an excuse to sin. That's what I heard there.
Yeah, well.
Dang, Pastor. Dang, Pastor.
You want to
Okay,
talk about
nice
direct?
for what?
I was going to say, you want to
Nice
talk about
for
direct
what?
for real.
Yeah, see, I have that problem sometimes with directness.
But Joy, you seem to be someone who is concerned with the feelings of the other person, which is ironic to me considering your military service.
Because I had to deal with thousands of people. So in order to get someone ultimately to sign on or go charge that hill, and you very well might die, how do you get someone to buy into a concept that says this is a good idea? Identifying how a person feels ultimately will get you what you want out of them. It sounds like manipulation. It does. On the straight edge, it sounds like straight manipulation. But understanding that if I come to this life and I had an issue with being promiscuous, if I had an issue with having, a different, I used to call that
Did you
ice
feel
cream,
that one too?
a different flavor every day or every week. Then
Dang,
when
Joy.
I got 9
Hey,
kids.
ice cream
bro.
though. Ice cream. Everybody don't just
I
like
got-
chocolate. Sometimes
I got,
like a little
little
strawberry.
strawberry or
You know,
something.
a little vanilla sprinkle.
Burger
but
pecan.
We're not talking about ice cream, are we?
we are, but we aren't.
But for the person that comes to me or to a person that had that issue, don't come to me and say, well, adultery is a sin, you're going to hell.
But
Well-
why not?
One, you don't know my life.
But
You
Yeah,
don't
hold
know.
on.
Yeah.
Before
You don't
you
know
go to
my
the next
life.
one-
Wait a minute.
Yeah, you don't
Before
know.
you go to the next one, does that make let's say I'm the person that said adultery is a sin, you're going to hell. Does that make my statement any less true because I don't know your life?
Doesn't make it less true, but my response to you is, is your name on the deed? Is your name on, based upon how you say it? Like I said earlier, it's not necessarily so much what you say. You can say adultery is a sin and you're going to hell. If you say, you know what, adultery is a sin, you on your way to hell, you need to change that. That's pushing at me.
So
if
you're
you
talking
say,
about tone.
Yes, if you say, hey, Joy, I realize that you're new to Christianity and some of the things that you've been dealing with in your life, you might want to consider how they impact the rest of your life.
That's not the same thing, though. You said a whole lot of different stuff
But
that
you
wasn't
added-
just tone.
You added words. You added words to give that person the warm fuzzy, like you said earlier, that you actually care about my situation. You actually care about where I'm going to end up at the end of the day instead of just pointing your finger at me without knowing where I came from. You don't know if I fell into adultery because I was abused. You don't know if I fell into this cycle because I experienced rape. You don't know why I'm here. So instead of just telling me I'm on my way to hell, of which you don't have deed to, because Jesus is the only one, God's the only one that can tell me if I'm going to heaven or hell.
But I'm just repeating what he said. He said
But you're not
to
him.
hell. He said adultery is a sin, you going to hell.
But he also gave compassion to the woman that was caught in adultery.
Right.
So he didn't throw a stone at her. So why are you throwing a stone at me?
But his compassion did not keep her from going to
He
hell.
still told
for
her the truth,
adultery.
though.
That's the point.
He told her not to sin no more, though.
He did say
Don't be no hoe
Like,
go
turn
away.
down.
Yeah, turn down for that. Forever.
and
Forever.
and sin no more. I have spared you from being stoned.
But he still gave
So-
her truth. So, like, okay.
Yeah.
So even when, like, the Pharisees in the Bible, even all through Matthew, when you see the little red highlight, that means God's talking for those. Even when he's talking to them, he's pulling the Pharisees by the roots. He's dealing with their actual problem. So I feel like if you're going to tell someone, hey, adultery's wrong, you need to stop, I would talk to them and figure out their situation first. Because I'm not just going to walk up to you and be like, hey, so I talked to Sue. We know.
And exactly.
Y'all need to cut it out. You know, I would kind of talk to them like, hey, what's going on? And if you're led to tell them that, God will start revealing things to you within the conversation, like how to say something to them or how to deal with them as you're talking to them, or what to ask to get them to open up. Because a lot of times people already know what they're doing that's wrong. They just need someone to kind of confirm it to them or say it to them in love, where it's accepting. Like, hey, I accept you where you are right now, but there's a change that needs to happen for you to get to where God needs you to be.
I agree with you completely. That's one thing that anybody who has ever spent any time with me knows. I do this all the time. Like, you could be like, oh, I just don't understand why, my roof is leaking. And I'll be like, what? Why are you hurting right now? What's causing the roof to leak? Let's find out what the original internal, depth of the situation is. Go ahead.
No, I was just I want to point out the fact that when we talk about nice for what, that we have to discuss what is the subject matter.
Right.
Because honestly and truly, if I am talking to you about your salvation or your lifestyle in terms of, your sex life, whatever you're doing in the bedroom, I'm going to handle that a little differently. Yeah. If you're a friend of mine and you cutting up in these streets, I might be a little bit harsher.
Right.
Or more direct. Or even if I meet you in a fast food restaurant and some things transpire, I might handle you
a little different.
That gentle meek meals. Yeah, maybe that's the meek you might get. But I think subject plays a part into, how you deliver what it is you deliver.
I think one thing that I would like for us to talk about, and this is the part that I think is very interesting. So, we talking about this topic. This is nice for what, right?
Right.
And I love how people have taken that song and the title of that song and just put it on T-shirts. Nice for what? Nice for what? Yeah. Nice for what? Right? But why don't we answer the question?
What?
Nice for what is a question.
I got it.
What is the reason that we should be nice? Let's answer the question. Nice for what? Okay, I'm going to let you know for what when we come back from this break.
All right.
Moment of clarity. Stefan G, we'll be back in a bit.
36 years young like I'm Brett Favre. Refusing to pass prime on my next start. QB for a team called Jesus. Same game, different side, yeah, we set apart. Go hard in the game now. My white robe accumulating less stains now. Less of me, more of him.
Moment of clarity, Stefan G. And as I sit here in the studio, I am reminded why I do not own an iPhone.
Whatever. Okay. Now you just mean.
I am
now you
reminded
mean.
why I don't own an iPhone.
Nice for what?
Wait, what happened? I missed
now
it.
you mean.
Do you have an iPhone charger? No, not a regular charger. An iPhone charger.
Oh, jeez. I'm with you there.
Not one of the chargers that works on every other phone in the universe. No, an iPhone charger.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And the ones that we change every 2 years, so you have to buy a new one.
That made no sense.
Okay,
You
so
need
are we
need an
redoing that
adapter.
part over? Because
I
I'm
need
not
an
coming in
adapter
like
for the
that.
headphone jack.
Yeah.
I have that.
Uh-huh. Do you have the headphone
So
adapter
annoying.
jack?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about being nice for what. And first, before we get back, I want Joy to tell the story of
I
the
am
grapes.
not going to tell the
You
story
gotta
about
tell
my
the
grapes.
Well,
You
we'll
got to
tell
tell
it
the story
for
about
you,
the grapes.
so-
You don't want me to tell it because I'm going to mess it up and add
You're going to be a
stuff.
little bit more ratchet
Oh,
with
my
it.
goodness.
It's a funny story.
Oh, okay, so after last week's show, I spent a whole week in snot and snob and slobber, and
Yes, Lord.
then I got just adamant to say, you know what, I'm changing my whole life, and I
That's
grew
what the
up.
show will do to you.
I know. I grew up in an environment where eating grapes was forbidden. Like
Which that still baffles
by
me.
I
the
never-
bylaws
This is the first
of
time
our
I've heard that.
church, we could not eat.
Really? It
grapes.
was in the church
Don't-
bylaws?
Yeah. It's the whole scripture about
saw you.
not.
So
you
what
know,
did y'all do for communion?
eat. We had water, and you only take communion once in your
Oh,
whole life.
What?
Yeah.
Water,
Wait a
yes,
minute.
Jesus.
Are you just rewriting the
Oh,
Bible now?
Yeah.
Because we not in judgment. We at a different level at this
Okay.
table. We not in
Yeah.
judgment about a whole organization.
Right.
I'm in
I was
judgment.
going to say, who not?
Yeah,
I
no,
am
we not.
judging
Judging
like
is what I
crazy.
do. Yes.
But so,
I know the
so
way
Where's
saved.
my gavel?
So this week I've had green grapes, red grapes.
Listen.
Go ahead, girl.
And
Check
girl, I'm
out-
just saying.
Is this the
got
first
loose.
time?
You been popping
Is this the
grapes
first
all
time in your
day.
life you've had grapes?
Yes.
Joy said,
Wow.
Joy said she's never had grapes. She's never had grape juice. She's never had grape popsicles.
Grape soda?
She's never had grape soda. Never had grape flavored anything. Did you eat raisins?
Oh, you got to have some raisins.
No.
Have you
No
ever had
raisins.
wine?
I've eaten raisins since then.
So when you had grapes for the first time, was it like,
Yes,
oh
Jesus.
my
This is so
gosh,
good.
this is
and I got them really,
amazing.
really cold. I got them really, 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 really cold.
This is too funny.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought that was very interesting. So
Yeah, no. Don't judge me.
Joy is hooked
We're not
on
judging
grapes
you.
now.
We're judging this.
Yeah,
we're
we're
judging.
judging
That I
that
came
you were
from.
part of.
everybody else that was around you at that point in time in your life.
Yeah.
So we're asking the question, nice for what? And there are some answers out there. There are some reasons to be nice, as Joy has alluded to, as Tina has alluded to. Me, Mike, and Kim still don't quite get it, even though we kind of.
I get it.
Come
I
over
preached
to
a whole
the-
sermon about this. Like,
Yeah,
few
what did
weeks
you
ago.
say, Pastor?
Yes, come on,
Pass
Pastor.
the mic.
Well, I used the example of.
See how he responded to that this time, Kim? We've gotten him. He's growing into it. All right, go ahead.
I see y'all. I see
Yeah,
y'all.
whatever. Well, I used the example, and I did both examples that you have to love even your enemies. And then I used the example from 1 Corinthians. What is love? Love is patient, kind. But then I also used the example that when you preach in love, you also have to say the truth. That doesn't mean you ignore the truth while you're talking in love, while you're teaching in love.
So did you do kind of like the Joel Osteen and all
I'd
of that?
never compare me to Joel Osteen again.
Okay, I'm just checking.
That came from the heart.
I'm just did I offend you? Was that a little straight no chaser off the cuff?
See,
I
you
apologize.
didn't take time to get to
I
know
I did not.
where he
I
was
did not
coming from.
You just
observe
mean.
about how
Just
that
mean.
would impact,
Yeah,
anything.
that wasn't nice, Mike.
I apologize. And see, there's another thing. When the offense is noted, how do we handle that?
But
Do
you
we-
know what, though? I'm going to need.
I apologize.
No, but there's also an aspect to this that I'm just going to have to stand up. Hold on, brush my shoulders, because I'm going to need some of y'all to just stop being offended at everything all the time about everything. Guess
Yep.
what? There is an aspect to this that you are a hoe, okay? It's true. You are a hoe, and you need to stop
feel
being
like
a
you
hoe.
told us to-
I was like, he looked up like, I'm reformed. I'm reformed.
But there's an
hoe no more.
aspect to this, and I don't really, I'm not trying to pick on hoes in general.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? You're an addict, you're a
I'm not-
liar, you're a thief.
I'm not
Right,
trying to pick
right,
on
right.
hoes in
Right.
general.
Whatever that particular thing is,
We don't want
the
to offend
truth
the hoes
is,
in our audience.
But whatever the particular thing is, there's
Lord.
truth in the fact that you are that thing. And I don't need to always sugarcoat it with why you became that thing, because one thing I learned in the growth of understanding why I became who I am is that I now need to take responsibility for who I am, regardless of why I became that thing.
Absolutely.
So we can understand what happened in our childhood and what happened as we were growing up and why we became the way we became. And we can understand what contributed to us having whatever this deficiency is, or this unholiness is, or whatever it is that's causing us to sway from the gospel and the truth and a sin-free life and all that kind of stuff. We can understand that thing. We can know that thing. We can walk back to that place. But if you're not healing from it and you're not actively pursuing, God's love in that space, then you still are that thing. You need to take responsibility for where you are now. You can't just live on, well, you don't understand why I'm this way. You're right. I don't understand why you're this way. But you and I both know you need to not be this way any longer. So I'm urging and encouraging you to go figure out why you're this way and heal from that thing so that you can grow out of it and stop being such a hoe all the time.
I feel you.
Yeah.
You said that
And just tell them-
passionately.
I'm a reform hoe myself. So.
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
I've heard the
He
stories.
is. I was a witness to his whole days.
There are, as we can tell, many reasons to try to be nice, but there are also many reasons to try to be direct. My question to Mike is, where is the balance, and how do we walk that balance of a line to where we can provide truth in a way that it is received without compromising the truth that we are providing?
Oh, it's for me? Oh,
Yes,
you gave
for
me
you.
the easy one.
That's your
Thanks.
question.
All right. So usually I would say it's this. What I notice a lot when you cross over of being mean is it goes beyond giving the direct truth. So instead of me telling you, say you have an opinion on something and you're saying, no, that's not correct. This is correct. And that person says, you're a liar. I don't know. When it comes to personal attacks that go beyond speaking the direct truth to someone, I think that's where things get murky.
Right.
So when you start attacking someone personally, calling them these things, judging their character, when you really don't know their character just based on something they're saying, instead of giving them the truth, that I think is where the line is.
And I think we have a tendency to do that because we measure these things off of our own experiences and what we've been through and things like that. So there becomes a level of judgment, there becomes a level of passion, there becomes a level of perceived insight, there becomes a level of perceived wisdom, perceived knowledge that we think we have that can help better you as a person, you know, and then you get a little resentment because you feel like, oh, this person isn't listening and I've told them this 5 times and blah, blah, blah. And so you're right. There is an area where we have to kind of straddle that line to see if we've crossed the line of, you know, looking into a place that we don't have all the information for,
right,
and making statements out of that space as opposed to truly providing them truth because we care that they have and receive the truth.
Here's a question that I really had since, you know, the start of the nice for what, right? When did being real, aka being nice, aka being truthful, become synonymous with being rude and obnoxious?
Sensitivity.
Well, I would say maybe when people started being rude and obnoxious with the truth.
Right.
We can't act like that doesn't happen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can't act like, you know, what is it? Westboro Baptist Church. We can't act like they don't exist.
Right.
You know, going to people's graves and yelling at them because they, you know, fought in the military or something like that. That's real. When people
show up if you want to. Show up if you want to. All mine going at you.
When people are obnoxious with the truth, it happens. And then people are obnoxious with the truth when they talk about LeBron James. You know what I mean? Right. So it happens. But
I think what's missing a lot when you're being truthful to someone is humility, because what happens is you give someone the direct truth and then you start attacking who they are as a person on the inside. You start attacking their motivations. That person isn't going to look at you and say, oh, well, you're Mr. Perfect, you know all the answers, so you don't have any of these issues. And that's where I think it becomes a problem. Because when you're giving the truth to someone, you should also be humble in understanding that you are coming from a place of imperfection as well. And coming from a place that you don't have all the answers as well.
And humility.
Marx said, if they don't receive you, dust your feet off and keep it moving. So
right. I mean, and humility in the Bible is power restrained.
It just went quiet.
I think I really want to put some of these thoughts and philosophies into context. I think we're having such a high level conversation, but when you're having a conversation with your girlfriend and you got to tell her something real, and I don't even want to say your girlfriend, but a coworker.
Yeah.
You know, and it's time to say, I don't know, maybe you have a coworker who complains often about
just their job.
Their job and not being able to get things done, but from the sidelines you get to observe their lack of time management.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know what I need to do right. You know, I keep doing this, I keep doing that. You have that moment right in your throat where you like,
I know what you need to do.
I got some things. I can give you some advice. And you're struggling with how do I unload this? How, you know, what is the humble way to give you this information? Now, you know, I think sometimes what we'll do is we'll present it in a way of, well, have you ever thought? We give room for them to think about some things.
Buy in.
You know what I mean? But, I mean, there's just so many different contexts that I think we could apply this to. When there's time for you to have a conversation with your leadership, you know, what does the truth look like then? Because you're told, oh, you got to play the game in corporate America or wherever you're working.
Delivering truth is a strategic strategic participation. It's something that if you're going to deliver the truth and you think you're just going to go around smacking people with truth and they're going to receive it, that's not how life is.
Right.
You're going to have to be very strategic, very knowledgeable, and very wise about how you do it. You're going to have to understand some of the background, if not all of it. You don't always have to know all of it, but you're going to understand some of the background. You're going to have to show at least a small level of compassion. You know what I'm saying? At least a
Right.
small level of understanding in order for anybody to receive the truth that you're giving. That's, as a person who has been direct for a lot of their life, that is one thing that I have learned, is that when I am delivering the truth, I like to deliver the truth through questions so that you can obtain the truth on
Right.
your own, as opposed to me telling you.
self-discovery, yeah.
Right. And so I give very suggestive questions to people. I give questions that lead to certain places that might allow you to, and it also shows me whether you're just going to deny this fully or whether you're open to accepting what I have to say. Because if I
Exactly.
start questioning you, that causes you to either go into a place of defense because you don't want me in that door, or it causes you to open up a little
Be
bit
real.
because you start to share. And as you start to share, I can recognize, where are you on your journey of accepting truth, and how much truth can I absolutely share with you? Because we can't share all the truth with everybody. For instance, imagine, and I'm not saying this is absolutely positively the truth, but imagine what I said about forgiveness is the absolute truth. How difficult was it for everyone in here to receive it?
Oh, bruh.
So we
Right.
can't just shell out truth just any old way. It comes tempered with certain aspects and certain things, and in certain environments and in certain ways. You know what I mean? And so we have to be cognizant of that and understanding of that. Don't you think so, Michael?
Well, I was thinking that that's exactly what Paul did. If you read different letters to different churches, he gave some, mature thoughts.
Right.
That's true.
And then he gave some, depending on the maturity
More
of the
easy.
church.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I enjoyed this for episode 100, where we ran around the mountain 5 times and down the
We
woods
nice
and through the
for
desert.
boy.
And
But we made it to the
We did.
land of milk and honey.
we sure did.
All right.
And we will every time. Kim, thank you so much for coming to join us.
was
gotta
So
come back.
nice to
No
meet you.
doubt.
Please
No
come
doubt.
back.
What you doing next weekend around noon?
Who knows?
Yeah, I know.
Who knows? I could show up.
I need you.
Yeah,
I
what's
need
going
your
on
presence.
Saturday around noon?
Anyway,
Around noonish.
you know I love you, Kim. I appreciate you coming in. Listen, everybody, I appreciate y'all. Listen, make sure you go to Facebook.com/Mo Clarity Radio. That's MO Clarity Radio. Instagram at Mo Clarity Radio. Check us out on Podcast Addict, iTunes. Moment of Clarity with Stefan G. We'll check y'all next week.